So I'll kick us off. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jessica Rodriguez, and I'm the Assistant Director of Strategic Programs for the Data Science Institute here at Columbia University. Today's seminar is an iCubed, which stands for Institute, Industry, and Innovation. These seminars connect our industry affiliates to our students in the larger Columbia community to explore topics at the forefront of industry. We invite data scientists, engineers, or researchers from our affiliates to give a talk about a recent project or case study. During these educational events, we encourage attendees to ask questions during the session. So today, for today's talk, Hugo was actually really interested in having like dynamic engagement with you throughout the talk. So please feel free to drop your questions into the chat at any point. Like there's no reason to wait until the end. If something comes up, go ahead. Today, Hugo is joining us from LexisNexis, which is actually under Elsevier. As you may know, Elsevier is our industry, the parent company industry affiliate with us. So that is how Hugo is joining us today. And today he will be giving the seminar High-Speed Data Engineering with HPCC Systems. Thank you so much for joining us, Hugo, on a Friday in December. So we appreciate it, and welcome. I turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Jessica. And hello, everyone. My name is Hugo Watanuki, as Jessica has kindly introduced me. And I work for LexisNexis Risk Solutions. And today I'm here to talk about how we collaborate with different academic partners and industries around the globe using this fantastic technology called HPCC systems, which although has been originally thought as a high-speed data engineering platform, over the years we have seen has found interesting applications on the academic community as well. Okay, so I will be covering here today mainly three topics. So the presentation is divided around those three topics. Before I talk about the technology itself, which I believe is the part that most interests all of you, I'll give a general business context of what we do as a company, so you can better understand the reasoning behind the technology. And of course, towards the end, I will also discuss a couple of academic collaboration opportunities, both for students and faculty members. And for students, especially career opportunities, if you're willing to pursue a future position on the IT industry, specifically big data related. Okay. I have content here for more or less 40 minutes of presentation. So just like Jessica has mentioned, please feel free to post your question on the chat or raise your hand, I guess, if you have that functionality. I will be more than happy to answer all the questions you might have. And toward the end of the presentation, we'll also have some time for open discussions, right? Now, before we start, actually, I have a question for all of you. And don't be shy, please. It's okay. So I was just wondering if any of you have ever heard about LexisNexis Risk Solutions or HPCC systems before. And it's totally fine if you don't. That's the reason why I'm here today. But I was just curious to see how much of previous knowledge you might have on the content that I'm presenting today. And I'm just looking at the chat right now. I don't see anyone. No. Yeah, thanks, Darren. Thanks, Danielle. All right. Not much, Andy. Thank you so much. All right, good. And for the others, I will take silence as a no. So that means probably the content here will be new information for all of you, which makes me really happy. All right, so let's just start talking about the business context of what we do. So LexisNexis is actually part of a larger corporate group, as Jessica was introducing me before. So LexisNexis is actually part of Relix, a larger global provider of information-based analytics and decision support tools. And Relix itself employs more than 33,000 people around the globe. We have offices in more or less 40 countries these days. And Relics is composed by 4 sister companies that I'm highlighting here on the screen. So perhaps I'm pretty sure the most familiar face or the most well-known company under Relics is Elsevier, just because Elsevier has a very strong presence, on scientific, technical, and medical editing field. So if you are attending college or doing research universities, you probably have leveraged books or scientific papers that have been edited by Elsevier, just because we have a long tradition that ties back, I think, all the way back to the 19th century on that area. Okay. But we also have a division called, or a company called Read Exhibitions, which is basically responsible for organizing events like conferences and symposiums. If you are a comic book fan, Comic Con is one of the conferences that we organize. And then on the right side here of the picture, we have the sister companies that are more focused on risk analysis, which is the core business for both companies. So LexisNexis Legal and Professional is the company that is focused on supporting the legal industry on the risk analysis or risk assessments. And LexisNexis Risk Solutions is the company that supports other industry verticals, for instance, insurance companies, healthcare companies, government, and financial services or business services, as we call them. Okay. But in overall, you can see that the Relics group is really centered around data and information. Even more traditional companies like Elsevier will leverage that knowledge throughout the other sister companies to help different organizations around the globe to extract value from data and information. Okay. Now, I think perhaps this has been very superficial to begin with, but if you're trying to understand what LexisNexis actually provides in terms of value, this next slide might be a bit more helpful. So basically, at the end of the day, LexisNexis tries to provide customer focused solutions on data analytics. So we help them, and we have been doing that for the past 20 plus than 20 years, supporting them on connecting different data sources, specifically public records and transactions, and build solutions that help them at the end of the day make a risk decision. So for instance, if you are a insurance company and you are trying to determine whether or not a person purchasing an insurance policy could be trying to commit fraud, we can help you assess that scenario. If you are a financial company and you're trying to assess the risk of allowing or lending money or financial credit to a certain company or a certain individual, we can also help you assess the risk involved on that scenario. Okay. And how do we do that exactly on a daily basis? Well, we try to leverage 5 key pillars in our business model that are highlighted here on the screen. It always starts with a very large data repository. We have, I would say, one of the largest data repositories containing public and proprietary records about individuals and companies all around the world. It has more or less 12 petabytes of data, just so you have an idea of how much data we have. And that, of course, represents billions and billions of records. Now, as I've mentioned, we've started doing this 20 plus years ago, when big data, for instance, was not even a buzzword. So as you might see through this presentation, we have had to take some decisions while we were exploring this new area. Big data was not a common knowledge area, I would say 20 years ago. So we had to take some decisions that would allow us to actually manipulate that data or work with that data. And one of the decisions we've made back then was that none of the technologies available at that time were capable of actually giving us the information at the speed we need from that amount of data. So we've created our own big data technology. It's called HPCC systems, which stands for high performance computing clusters. And it's basically a big data supercomputing platform that process all those data repositories and help us throughout the day to develop database solutions. Okay. Now that's one of the pillars we have at the company. Over the years, we also developed our own clustering technology. So with all that data, with the platform we have, we also have algorithms that help us cluster that data. So at the end of the day, we have for every entity, either a person or a company, all the attributes we can collect around those entities, all bundled together in the single cluster. And of course, we combine those three tools with sophisticated analytics. So over the years, we also have been paying attention to the latest developments in machine learning and AI. So we can incorporate that knowledge to generate more value from these resources. And of course, if you wanted to provide customer focused solutions in such diversified areas, you need to have people capable of doing that. So we do have in-house expertise in each one of those verticals or those business units, as we used to call them. Okay, but in a nutshell, that's how LexisNexis Risk Solutions operates as a business. It's really a data-driven company from the outset. It was born to address this type of challenge, right? Now, just to give you an overview of our presence in the market, even though I made a question about LexisNexis Risk Solutions, if someone has ever heard about it, not much, never. But one of the reasons perhaps is because we support other businesses. We are more like a B2B type of company. But if you start looking at how other companies are leveraging our products or services, we have customers in more than 180 countries, especially on the financial market. For instance, we support 9 out of the world's top 10 banks, 78% of Fortune 500 companies. And in insurance market, again, we support 98 of the top 100 personal line insurance carriers in the US. And on the government side, we also support more than 7,000 agencies, either at the federal, state, or local levels. Okay. So in a nutshell, that's what LexisNexis Risk Solution does, and that's our presence in the market. I hope by now it might be more clear or clearer actually what we do and what our focus is. But if anyone has any questions, please you're more than welcome to post them on the chat, or if you want to save your question to the end, that's perfectly fine as well. Okay. All right. So now that we know a little bit more about the business context, you might be wondering how exactly the technology, the HPCC systems technology, helps LexisNexis Risk Solutions with high-speed data engineering. So now we'll talk a bit about the technology itself, okay? So HPCC systems is I would say because we've created it more than 20 years ago, but it's the technology we use for big data processing at LexisNexis Risk Solutions. It's now an open source technology. It became open source in 2011. But for those who might not be familiar with the concept of HPC or high performance computing, you can think of HPCC systems as a collection of computers that are grouped together to address a big data challenge. Just because a single computer was not enough or doesn't contain enough resources to manipulate and query that data at the speed customers and organizations need, okay? But perhaps instead of me talking about HPCC systems, we do have a very instructional video, I would say. I think it's a 3-minute video that I would like to play. And from that video, I think you will have a better understanding of what HPCC systems is. So I will just click play here. And we were testing this before the presentation started. But if someone doesn't hear the audio, please put on the chat and we can try to see what's going on. But I think we have everything in place to play the video here. So there we go.
Discover HPCC Systems, the completely free, open-source, end-to-end big data platform. HPCC Systems is a complete data lake management platform that enables you to integrate data from disparate sources and deliver enhanced analytics. And HPCC Systems can scale to any data need. The platform can be configured using traditional clustering methods using on-premise or bare metal machines, as well as a containerized cloud-native approach using services like AWS or Microsoft Azure. Our powerful data engines execute automatically in a high-performing parallel workstream. The Data Refinery engine lets you take control of data transformation. It can easily profile, clean, enhance, transform, and analyze mixed schema data. The Data Delivery Engine performs real-time queries through a variety of interfaces, including SOAP, XML, REST, and SQL. Integrates with other systems such as Couchbase, MySQL, Kafka, and MongoDB to perform high-throughput data ingestion and processing for live-stream IoT workloads. A data catalog tool tracks compliance and data lineage for GDPR and CCPA. Track what data is consumed, how it is transformed, how it is being used, and who uses it. High-performance and scalable data delivery in the form of web services, API, and SQL help in easily integrating with end-user BI tools and workflows. A machine learning library that works efficiently with distributed data to scale to large data sets lets you build models close to the data, eliminating the need to move data around. Deep learning support is built on top of TensorFlow to provide a powerful engine to work from raw data to model delivery. Check out HPCC Systems today to learn more about how you can quickly and easily ingest, organize, process, and analyze your data, even data stored in massive mixed schema data lakes.
All right, so I'm pretty sure the video made a way better job than I would describing all the features from HPCC systems. But if you are interested in knowing more, be aware we have a website, hpccsystems.com, that you can access and have and actually be in contact with all those resources that the video covers. But perhaps you might be wondering at this point in time, you know, HPCC systems seems to be something similar to Hadoop and Spark. And if you thought about that, you're actually close of being correct, because all those three technologies are actually considered big data platforms. These days you have, also Snowflake and some others. But there are some core or key differences as well. And I'll try to just highlight them using this slide. But the first one I would say is that HPCC is the only technology that has a inbuilt query engine on top of the data manipulation or data refinery engine. So remember, because of the fact we were born to address industry issues or customer issues, we had to think not only on the data manipulation side of the picture, but the entire pipeline from extracting the data from the original sources all the way through the data delivery, right? So HPCC has a built-in query engine or a data delivery engine that helps you at the end of the day create products and services ready, for customer usage. Another difference I would say is on the programming language aspect. So back then, once we started working with big data, none of the programming languages available at that time provided us the level of efficiency we would need to manipulate all that data, even using a cluster. So we had to come up with something that would, for instance, combine a query language type of approach, something similar to SQL, but more terse, with the speed of a compiled language such as C++. So at the end of the day, we created ECL. ECL stands for Enterprise Control Language, and it's a programming language, a query programming language, data manipulation and query language that actually compiles to C++. So at the end of the day, if you are a big data developer working with HPCC systems, you can still manipulate and query the data very easily. And you also have the performance because at the end of the day, your code will be compiled to C++ automatically. And there are still some optimizations also happening during that compilation in the sense that the data flow you are programming will try to be optimized. So if there are manipulations on the data that can happen in parallel or that are not needed for your output, the compiler will also make sure they are either parallelized or eliminated from your data flow. Okay, so those I would say would be the key differential areas between HPCC systems and other big data platforms. Okay. Now, if you look at HPCC systems from a stack perspective, as I've mentioned, it's a complete or all batteries included type of platform. But if you look at this diagram, you can perhaps have a better understanding of how all those components are layered on top of each other. So at the end of the day, you have all the functionality you might need either as a data engineer or as a data scientist. Okay, so at the bottom here of this stack, you can see the two engines that HPCC systems is composed by. The Thor cluster, that's the data refinery engine, and the Roxy cluster is the data delivery engine. Both of them are manipulated using ECL. So ECL is the common language across all the environment, which gives you several benefits. For instance, you don't need expertise in several different languages to code your data manipulation and data query pipeline from the extraction all the way through the delivery. Is all a same programming language. And you can actually make work in parallel, because if you build interfaces on your code between Tor and Roxy, you can actually have both teams working in parallel to come up with a big data solution as fast as possible. This is not always possible if you're using different programming language, just because your environment doesn't support a common language. On top of that, you have built-in analytics functions to help you with data management. So let's say you are a data engineer and you need help with profiling, cleaning the data, normalizing the data. We have libraries that help you automate that process. And if you are more on the query management or data delivery side of the picture, we also automate a lot of the workload involved in that area, such as indexing the data and helping you streamline the delivery of the data with minimal business disruption. Because remember, we are talking about creating products that are not static. They have new data, which is actually a characteristic of big data. We have new data coming in every time. So it's not a matter of just creating one static environment, but over time thinking on solutions that allow you to keep your database updated with minimal disruption to your business or to your organization. Okay? And on the top layer here, you have a series of tools that can be used by data consumers, such as IDEs to help you program your code. You have tools for data governance, which is a big thing, especially if you're now working with data lakes. If you're a data analyst, you will find tools to help you with the dashboarding needs. And if you are a sysadmin and you need to manage all this environment, we also have interfaces to help you manage from a system administration perspective. Okay, so this slide is trying to give you a clearer picture of why HPCC systems is considered a all batteries included type of big data platform. Okay, with one technology, you can cover all the needs that your organization might have around big data. Okay, now this is the technical part of it, but you might be thinking, well, can you give me an example of where HPCC systems can be used to address the big data challenge? And I would say yes, because that's actually what we have on the next slide. So this graph, or not so nice graph, I would say, represents a tentative from a insurance career company a few years ago trying to find evidences of fraud. Okay, so what we have here on this graph actually is just a couple of nodes with the letter A, and we have some vertices and along those edges around those nodes, right? Quick question: does anyone have any idea what this graph is trying to convey? Looking from a insurance fraud perspective, considering that we're talking about big data. Does anyone have a clue or a guess? No? Yeah, no worries. I know it's hard. And it was harder for that company as well. Those are car accidents. Oh, there you go, Andy, fraud prediction of node A. It was actually simpler than that, Andy. This data is like from 15 years ago or something like that, but it is still very instructional, I would say. Those A's are actually seven car accidents, right? That the company was thinking could be committing fraud. And the edges on those vertices are basically the individuals involved on those car accidents. And they were suspecting those car accidents were associated with fraud because they not only used to happen in a specific geographical region, but they used to involve an abnormal number of people. And of course, the more people injured, the better, the premium of your insurance. But when that company tried to vinculate, all those car accidents using the data they had, internally, basically the individuals covered by those policies, they could only establish one weak link between those two car accidents, right? And nothing more. So they gave us that data, and we've push that data through a data enrichment pipeline using HPCC systems, okay? So remember that data repository, that data source containing 12 petabytes of data has helped us, for instance, associate those individuals with records coming from, DMV, address and unique name combinations. So think about it. If you start extracting all this data, cleaning the data, combining that data with the fraud suspicious data, and start associating the individuals from those raw records with the fraud data, at the end of the day, you can end up with a completely vinculated or linked database, in the sense that if you, at the end of the day, input or query the name of a certain individual, you can build a social graph from that individual. Why? Because let's take a simple example. You have the data from the individual associated with the fraud, and you have the record of that vehicle. If you look at the vehicle records database, you might find the name of that individual or previous owners, or that individual might not be the owner of the car. And then you can cross that information with unique name and address combinations. If you find two persons sharing the same address, it might mean that they used to live together. They might have been involved on a real estate negotiation, but they do know each other at some level. So at the end of the day, you start linking all that data, and you can build a very powerful social graph associating not only you, but all your social circle. Okay. And once you have this data linked in Roxy, you can then start creating products that could be either batch services, APIs, or visualization products that companies use to make risk decisions. So at the end of the day, once the original data from the insurance carrier was passed through this data enrichment pipeline, this was the resulting graph. So basically what you can see here, and it's a very, a much more dense graph, and the primary data that has been added to this graph are data regarding the relatives, first and second degree relatives from the individuals that were originally mapped around those car accidents. So at the end of the day, they could find two families that were orchestrating all those car accidents, but they were clever enough, and that's the problem with people trying to commit fraud. They know how the basic system works, so they try to be clever than the system. But in this case, they were leveraging second-degree relatives to orchestrate the car accidents. So only after you added those two additional layers of data into your analysis is that you would be able to find this, I would say, root cause. So this is a good example of how combining a large volume of data with a high-speed technology like HPCC systems can really deliver non-trivial value to your risk decisions. Okay. So I hope by now you're also clear about what HPCC system is and how HPCC systems can be used to help companies on their risk decisions, especially with this fraud example. But if you have any questions, again, feel free to put them on the chat, or if you want to save them to the end of the talk, that's fine as well. All right. So now that we know what, the business context and the technology itself, I also want to spend a few minutes talking about how you, as either as a student or a faculty member, can partner with us. Okay. Because HPCC systems has a long tradition of establishing collaborations with academic partners around the globe. So just to give you a brief idea, since 2011, when we became open source, We have partnered with more than 20 academic institutions around the globe. We have provided more than 120 grants and sponsorships for those willing to do research in big data ecosystem using HPCC systems, for instance. And as a result of those partnerships and grants, we have also published more than 80 scientific papers and books around big data. But that's perhaps the part where I would like to focus today. We have an active role in supporting students like yourselves to start their career in the IT industry, specifically big data. And we do that by mentoring students through a summer internship opportunity. So since 2011, for instance, we have mentored more than 25 students. And we have a very strong presence on the training area as well. And we have trained more than 2,000 IT professionals in HPC systems since we went open source 2011. Okay. Now, what are the benefits or the opportunities we see once you become an academic partner, once you join our community? And remember, there's no cost associated. We are an open source community. We are here to make sure that the big data industry is sustainable, either from a technological, social, or economical perspective. But those are the opportunities I would like to highlight for both faculty members and students. So if you are a faculty member, we do have teaching fellowship opportunities that you can pursue. Research support, we are really strong on that area. We can support research, especially with computing resources, since we have clusters dedicated for academic research. And we do have our annual conference. We do join other conferences, but we have our own annual conference, and we invite, of course, all the community members to join us every year, more or less around October timeframe, to discuss, the latest developments in the big data industry. Now, if you're a student, again, apart from the training, the free training and training material, we also host a series of hackathons throughout the year, free hackathons. Again, if you're interested, that could be an exciting way of addressing a big data challenge, I would say. As part of these events, you will be getting access to cutting edge technologies. So remember, we are talking about large scale computing resources that are not always readily available for students, but you can learn a lot from being in touch with them. And all of these opportunities are really focused on giving the students some real world big data learning experience, because that's how we learn handling big data. And that's what we believe really adds value if you are a student. Now, one of the ways we do that is by offering internship opportunities for students, okay? And that's what I'm going to focus on my next slide. So if for some reason you have become interested on anything that I presented so far, or maybe you're already interested in the area, the HPCC Systems internship program might be a good fit for you, okay? Why? Because that's an internship where you will be working during 12 weeks remotely with one of our technologists, which will be your mentor. And the two of you will be working together to develop a big data project using HPCC systems. It's your project, right? It's open source. I'll explain a bit how that happens on a day-to-day basis, but all you need to do in order to become eligible for the internship is, of course, being a student, all the way from high school up to PhD levels. So if you fall within that spectrum, you're more than welcome to join us. And you also need to have an idea. we want to know from you, what are you trying to accomplish as part of your internship? And then we'll try to give you all the resources you need to make sure you can execute that project. We call that a proposal-based application because we want to hear from you via a proposal what exactly you are trying to achieve as part of the internship. Okay. I was just talking to Jazz before we started. We are now accepting applications for the internship program. The deadline is last week of March 2024. And this is just an overview, a brief overview of the internship, but be aware we have a wiki page, a student wiki page that you can access by just scanning this QR code. And the wiki page will have all the history and all the guidelines to help you understand what the internship is about, the whole internship experience. Okay. And by the way, I'll be sharing those slides afterwards as well in case someone wants to reference any of those links. Now, okay, you might be wondering, I think I got the idea, but what kind of projects do the students or the interns develop during the internship? And I selected one just because ZU was a colleague of you. He is a Columbia University, or was a Columbia University student back in 2022 when he joined us. And this is an example of the type of project you can develop during the internship. He was helping the community to develop a causality algorithm for big data. So the whole concept here was, if you have a very large database, a very large data set, containing attributes from a certain entity, let's say a person, the disease of that person, and the habits of that person, would I be able to develop an algorithm that can help extract some causal inferences between those attributes causing that disease without any theoretical framework behind it? So if I just train or develop an algorithm that is able to identify those cause-effect relationships between the attributes and the disease, that will be really powerful because I can start, taking the same approach with other different data sets where eventually people are not yet aware of causal effect relationships, and the algorithm would be able to discover them with a certain degree of precision. So ZU was interested on that area. So he helped the community to test or evaluate 3 different algorithms within that causality package, which is now ready, actually available for anyone who would be willing to use it. And that's a very nice aspect of the internship. We try to give you the exposure within the community that might help you with your next step in your career, okay? This is the poster ZU created as part of his internship. If you want to know more about his work, again, you can scan that QR code. The QR code will direct you to the wiki page, and you can see the projects, not only from ZU, but from all the other past interns, just so you have a better idea of what we do during the internship. Okay. Real quick here, just so you have an idea of how we structure the internship so you can achieve a similar outcome as ZU. We split those 12 weeks within 3 or 4 phases, I would say. Even before your internship starts, we start, interacting with you. We have a welcome meeting to introduce you to your mentor. And we also start setting up your infrastructure and training resources that you might need for your project. Then once day 1 arrives and you start working on your internship project, we set up daily meetings with your mentor. We give you support for code development, troubleshooting, testing. And we also suggest you to keep all your progress on a blog report. So at the end of your project, you can create a project just like ZU, or a page for your project, just like ZU created. As we get closer to the end of the internship, of course, we have a focus on making sure your code looks good, documentation looks good, but we also start pursuing speaking opportunities for you, so you can present your work internally at the company, but also externally using posters just like ZU created. And then if you're willing to, you're more than welcome to join us on that annual conference that I've mentioned around October timeframe, where we showcase your poster. And of course, you're more than welcome to give a talk on the work that you did. Overall, as you can see, we try to exercise not only the hard skills for the intern, but also the soft skills, especially communication and presentation. Okay. Now, if you perhaps started becoming interested on this opportunity, you might be wondering, how can I apply to the internship? So really quick 3-step process. As I've mentioned, we need to know what you want to do. So first step is to select your project. Think on a project. And we already provide you with a list of potential ideas on our website, but you're more than welcome to suggest yours. Once you have that idea, that initial idea, you need to start working on writing this proposal. And don't think it's a very formal document. It has no template, to be honest, but we strongly encourage you to start working with a mentor. And in our website, we already give you a list of potential mentors that you can contact. And the two of you can start working on developing this proposal. And the main content we are looking for is, what are the deliverables and the timeline you are trying to achieve as part of your project. And once you have that proposal, you just need to apply online on our careers website, submitting the proposal in your resume. And this is the QR code in case you want to, take a look at the job posting right away. But again, I'll share the slides after the talk. Okay. This is actually my last slide, and I think we are just on time. But this is a collection of photos from all the recent interns. I'm still working on this slide because we have students that have joined us since 2011 that I don't have their pictures yet. But they are all here to make, I would say, a call to action. They are here to invite you to be part of our team, part of the HPCC Systems open source community, and make your mark just like they did and continually doing on this journey. All right. So with that, I would like to thank you for your attention. I will leave you with my email address and also my profile LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me or send me an email. But I think we also have some time for questions and answers. But anyway, thank you for your attention so far.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hugo. This has been great. I know our students are still, that we have a good number of students still looking for internships. So if you have any questions about the internship, please feel free to pop them into the chat now as well. If you have any questions about the HPCC presentation, please go ahead and pop them in now. But Hugo, we have some standard questions that we like to ask our industry affiliates when they come to speak to us, so that our students kind of get, I know you spoke a little bit about what a successful candidate for application for the internship is, and what the takeaways are and what a great team it would be. So if someone wanted to join the LexisNexis team, what would make a strong candidate? What's the type of data scientist that you are looking for?
Understood. So looking more from an internship perspective, which is what we were focusing here, I would say that there are basically two skills, and I know we can extend that list, but two primary skills that we think are not only valuable, but critical for the whole internship experience to work. First of all, on the soft skill side, communication. So given that most of the companies these days are working either fully remote or on a hybrid context, being capable of communicating clearly with your peers, with your mentors or your managers, if you're looking for a full-time position, in our opinion, is key. We have seeing great professionals, great students with very solid technical skills, but that at the end of the day, we're not able to actually verbalize those skills and be part of projects, be part of solutions that we were developing. So communication, in my opinion, is key. And I'm not saying that you need to be like a public speaking type of person, but practice communication as part of your daily routine. So be in touch with your mentor, even if you're just saying hi, share your experiences, your perceptions, because that helps, not only communicating your skills, but building trust among people. So that will be my number one skill in terms of soft skills. And of course, if we're talking about hard skills, basic programming language is, I would say, a must these days. And I'm not referring to a specific programming language itself, but if you have been exposed to some programming language already, the logical thought behind it, that capacity of abstraction, addressing a problem using logic, that's of course something that the programming language help you acquire. And if you need to choose, of course, if you know some ECL coding, that will really make your case stronger, not just because it's a unique skill set, but really shows us that you are actually interested in deep diving into this technology. So I guess those are the two key skills I would recommend, Jess.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And
Welcome.
something that I always like to ask is, our students are in this program. It's an 18-month program because they're doing it full time, and data science is of the moment. But when they leave this program, what is it that you recommend that they walk away with? What are like the skills that you think they need to make sure to grasp while they are here?
Understood. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say, of course, the university, the college will give you the foundations of the area. So if you're willing to become a data engineer or data scientist, the college for sure is well equipped to give you all the foundational knowledge. But if you have the opportunity to interact with an industry affiliate throughout your journey during the course, I would highly recommend, because it will give you, just like it gave me in the past, a different perspective of how you can apply that knowledge that the college is giving you into a real world situation. Sometimes if you don't do that when you're still in college, you might have a shorter timeline to acquire that skill after you leave the program. So I know Columbia University, for instance, has a large number of industry affiliates. I would strongly recommend students to take advantage of those and interact as much as possible, because I believe you will learn a lot from that experience.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's wonderful insight. And we work very hard to get our affiliates to engage with our students. So I appreciate that the plug for this, because I encourage our students, but it's good that they hear it from you.
Yeah.
So we have a question coming in. So I'll read it out loud so that in the recording we have it in case the recording doesn't show the actual written question. What would make a strong proposal for the application process? 1, is it the detail at which I describe my approach? 2, the expected outcome, how much money it could save, etc. Or 3, how my past experience align with the methods stated in the proposal? Thank you so much for this question.
Yeah, oh, that's a very interesting question, very comprehensive, and I think it will help everyone. So thank you, Andy. I will comment on those 3 items in a second, but I would start saying that, Andy, usually one of our main concerns when we receive an application is to make sure that the application fits within the resources we have at hand. And I'm not just saying about money or computing resources. I'm talking about the skills from the students, the amount of time we have, and the knowledge we have. Because at the end of the day, if we are looking at a proposal that doesn't fit a 12-week window, we'll probably recommend you to either tweak or look for alternatives. If the candidate doesn't have the skills required for that project from our perspective, it's a problem. And third, if we don't have the expertise in-house, that might also prevent us to support you on that idea. So looking from that perspective, of course, number one, when you say the detail at which I describe my approach, yes, the more detail you describe your approach, the easier will be for us to evaluate whether it's a feasible idea, whether you have the knowledge you need, and whether we have the knowledge you need. Okay. And how detailed it should be, I would say if you can break your proposal into a plan that is structured on a weekly basis. Let's say, for instance, week 1, this is what I'm planning to do. Week 2, this is what I'm planning to do. And week 3, that will already gives us the level of detail to properly assess the feasibility of your plan. Okay. Second, the expected outcome. I would say the deliverable is more important than actually numbers around it. So if you tell me I want to deliver a improved algorithm for the causality analysis, that's already clear enough. I'm not actually interested on how much money. If it can save money, it's always a good thing, but I wouldn't say it's the primary criteria around it. And I know it might be a little different just because this is an open source and non-profit type of engagement. And 3, how my past experiences align. Yeah, so again, if the proposal is detailed enough, we can actually help you to judge if your past experiences are you know, meaningful for that challenge. And if for some reason we see a gap, we'll also suggest you some alternatives so you can acquire that knowledge even before you start. And that's why the proposal period is really important. That's why engaging with the mentor even before you apply is important, because you can have the opportunity of mapping all those potential gaps even before you apply. So by the time you apply, if you have taken care of all those gaps with your mentor, the chances of being approved are way higher. Okay. So I hope I have answered your question. Those 3 items count, and that's the way we evaluate those 3 items during the hiring process.
Wonderful. That was a great plan. We got to thank you in the chat as well. Thank you for the reply. Thank you so much for joining us today, Hugo. And we're going to have all these materials, the video and the deck that you're going to share the deck with us, and we're going to be able to share the application site and everything with our students. And this is great. Looking forward to future engagements, and we'll be happy to have you back. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. My
Thank you,
pleasure.
everybody.
Bye-bye.